Storytelling has always been the heartbeat of product marketing, but in today's AI driven world, it's both an art and a science. Cutting through the noise feels harder than ever, even with so many tools. So, how do we strike that balance? In this episode, we explore the dual nature of B2B storytelling, how AI is reshaping content, and the tools that help us work smarter, not harder. Hello and welcome back to another episode at Behind the Brief, your show where we discuss and unravel the real and messy side of marketing. Today, we have Divya, a seasoned product marketing leader with 15 years of experience driving go to market strategies, sales enablement, and competitive positioning for enterprise SaaS companies. Currently, a Senior GTM Marketing Manager at Compt, she is known for crafting compelling product stories, equipping sales teams with the right tools to sell more, faster, driving real business impact.
Hi, Shruti. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm also excited about the things that we're going to talk about today.
So, Divya, when we talk about storytelling in the B2B SaaS world, how difficult or easy is it to define your messaging? And also, what's the biggest misconception people have about storytelling in B2B SaaS?
Starting off with storytelling, it sounds like something which is innate to us because I think growing up, we all heard stories from our parents. We read books, we grow up, maybe we have kids, and we start the storytelling process with them, and the cycle continues. And you would think it would be simple to relate to the business world, which also revolves around storytelling. Business buyers are you and I not very different from us. They have a buyer persona, but they are still people just like us who enjoy certain things, who like certain things, who live life in a certain way. And you'd feel like that would be the best way to relate to them at a level which is clean, clear, simple. And I have to say that it has taken me a decade plus to get there. I'll be honest, my first few years in marketing, I was all about jargon speak. I won't lie. I started off with empowering employees and robust synergistic systems in place and using all those big fancy words that I felt would resonate with my buyer, would help my sales team close leads faster. But now in the last few years, I've really understood what the buyer is looking for, because there is something called a buyer persona. Which is who we make of the buyer. We think about who they are, what their pain points are, and how to solve for them. But I think one thing we miss a lot of the times is understanding that they are people just like you and I, and they can be spoken to at a very relatable, almost emotional level. And that's where storytelling comes in. I do follow Emma Stratton and appreciate her writing, her latest book on messaging, Make It Punchy.
Yeah, make it punchy. Yes.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm going to use one of her sentences, which is like, say it as you would at a barbecue. And would you use robust systems talking to someone at a barbecue? I don't think so. Right? And I've taken my time for sure over my career, moved past those jargon words and moved really down to the basics of storytelling and discussing with my buyers what they would really want to see and hear and feel when it's selling my platforms or my products. And just really making sure that we're all talking in the language that both of us understand.
Yeah, so how do you feel when tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity change the way you write and even think about content? And how do you approach as a product marketer or in general, writing about something?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say something that may sound a little bit strange, but hear me out. ChatGPT is a platform, but my ChatGPT on my screen is an extension of me because I'm the one who's feeding it information. Unless, of course, I'm doing like a research project and I'm asking it for something. But let's say I have worked on a case story recently. Had an interview with my customer, wrote down my points, understood what they wanted to say, and then I fed it into ChatGPT saying, create a first draft for me. Those are my thoughts that have gone into the prompt. I didn't ask it to whip up a case study out of nowhere. So I've given it the basic level details and the basic information. So I still believe like it is a part of me and my thought process. It is like an extension of it. I don't look at it as something else. I look at it literally as an extension of my thought process. I am a huge believer in adapting to technologies when they can help us. Just an example, 10 years ago, the GPS system was asking someone walking on the road, hey, can you help guide me? Or where can I find this house? Right? Today's day and age, it's Google Maps. It makes it easier, faster, more efficient.
Yeah.
So why not adapt and adopt? I feel the same way when it comes to using AI for my productivity. It makes me faster, more efficient. Yes, I'm not going to just put in a prompt and the first thing that it throws out, use it. I definitely tweak, I definitely refine, because I know the voice of the customer. I know the voice of my buyer. And so I have to weave it in to whatever draft comes out. And literally I work with ChatGPT or Claude as a thought partner. And 3, 4, 5 prompts later, I'll come up with the final version that I want to use.
Yeah, even for me, I do not use it as a, idea generator. It creates very generic outputs when you use tools like that. But I use it as my writing assistant. If I am running out of time, I have something to write, I'll ask it to, just fix the errors and not generate 10-day LinkedIn calendar for me, and then I'll write everything what it's saying. So that's something trying to understand how human and AI can work together to create something that's really good.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah. So moving on, you think AI is enhancing creativity in content creation, or is it making content feel more generic? Because when we see people on LinkedIn, it shows when you have just used ChatGPT and not, your own creativity. Where do you think we are going forward with these kind of, scenarios coming through our way?
Absolutely. So I would like to think about it as two separate problems or areas that we need to think about. One is in a more personal way when you're using AI tools. Let's say I want to plan a trip to Santa Monica and I want to use it for finding restaurants, things to do with a 7-year-old kid, and also a nice place to stay. I think in that creating content, I think it works beautifully because it's simple, it'll give you options, and then it's up to you to choose. I think when we use that same thought process with building out our company brand, let's say, the social media manager of your company, and you've been told, build the brand. You need eyeballs and you need engagement. And then you start using Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, what have you, as a content creator without giving it the reasonable advice, prompts, inclination, tone of voice, guidelines, and also ideas on what you want to talk about. I think that is when things really go down, because that's what's spitting out all your generic content. I'm not saying it won't be good. Maybe it's good depending on, the prompts that you give. But there's a high chance that you're going to get really, really generic stuff. And you could replace your company name with company XYZ and it's likely going to sound the same or similar. So I think you don't lose sight of the fact that you need to own it. And this is your story. It's your brand. And what you put out there is directly relatable to your company's brand and the company's story. So I think not to lose sight of that is incredibly important. Same thing that you said on LinkedIn, like I'm seeing all this stuff getting generated. There's a lot more content being thrown, and there's also the debate on whether it's AI writing or is it you and your authentic self. I mean, honestly, I think it's how we as humans adapt to new technology. There's the early adopters, they're the ones who are going to give a little bit of a pushback and a little bit of a fight. There's all types of people out there and using AI in their own way, in what works for them. I think the idea is just to be able to suss out the generic stuff, keep it aside, and then work with the things that seem more authentic and then seem more real.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. I think you can see a good story versus a bad one. You see a lot of jargons. In general, when you read something generated by ChatGPT, a lot of the information like product story has to be fed in so that it brings good results. I feel a lot of the context has to be filled in, even though there are better and better versions of these AI tools that are coming out.
And I don't think AI is any different than your brain or mine, because if we're fed in stuff that won't pull out good things, you're not going to get a good output. So if you put in good stuff, likely the output is also going to be equally good.
Because we are talking about AI and tools for in this podcast, I want to know what tools that you are relying mostly these days. Could you share some examples on how they've worked out for you, and for all the product marketers and in general people who are starting out, what tools they should be using and what has worked out for you so far? I would love to know that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so as far as, again, I'll get into the tools, but it is a heavy caveat that you need to own what you're putting in, whether it's, ChatGPT or Claude as a thought partner, whether it's Canva for designs, whether it's if you're a sales enablement professional and you record your calls using Gong or other software out there to really understand what your prospects are saying. Again, it's all about making sure that the information that you are using and how you are using it, it comes out authentically. So don't just put in random prompts. You have to sift out the information that AI throws back at you. And as far as tools are concerned, so ChatGPT and Claude a lot for my writing and creating of content collateral. I do use Gong for sifting through my sales reps calls. Also, the AI with Gong is pretty good. It allows you to ask questions and it throws out answers from the transcripts from the calls, which is great. Canva for design, so I'm now a Canva ninja, as I like to call myself. The AI in Canva needs definitely some work upon, but I think to generate basic templates and work off of that, I think Canva is pretty good. And I'm trying to think of what other tools do I use. I think these are mostly it.
Got it. So, moving on from storytelling in B2B and, AI tools, do you mind sharing what are your focus areas when you are, launching new messaging for product that you have worked?
Yeah, sure. I will tell you a story about one of my toughest messaging projects. This was a couple of years ago. This is a legacy assessment tool for the company. It's been there for decades. It's an absolutely loved product, but we're seeing sales decline. And it was on me to come up with reasons why we are losing market share, why we aren't seeing the leads convert the way we were over the last few years. And after really becoming a SME of a subject matter expert of the product, after taking a certification in our own product and really sitting with the product managers and understanding exactly how we're able to help customers, understanding all about how the last few years of sales have gone, where are customers dropping off, why aren't they buying the way they were, what has changed, is there a buying behavior change? Doing all of that research and insight, basically cutting short weeks and weeks of work and telling you in like 10 seconds. Essentially, we realized that our messaging was a little bit off and that what messaging was working a few years ago wasn't resonating with our enterprise buyers now. So it took weeks, months of effort to come to that conclusion. And it wasn't a massive overhaul of messaging, but the tiny tweaks that really started to bring things back on track for us. And I think one of the learnings I had was after all of that, like months and months of hard work, and then one was getting the research done, which took maybe it was like a month and a half or almost 2 months. But it was the execution of the tiny little tweaks that went on for weeks and weeks, whether it was changing collateral or website information or sales enablement, making new fresh decks, walking the sales teams on how to present the product. I think all of that was like a 4 or 5 month journey, and you kind of look back and you're like, oh my god, it was just a tweak in messaging, but it was an overhaul for our business. It worked well, and luckily we were able to slowly bring back leads, bring back customers, enterprise buyers who weren't looking at us at the time, and bring them back to the table. But it is a huge effort. It's very easy to go and make a website about a product, and you don't need to know coding anymore. Just someone like me who has absolutely no experience in coding can go and create a beautiful website. But that's probably the smallest thing that needs to get done in creating a website.
Exactly.
The information and the content that you put on the website is super important, and that's where I feel a lot of people get blindsided. They think that it's probably an easier lift than it is, and that literally, I have to say, can only come with experience. You have to have a lot of failures before you can get the experience to have those wins.
Right. So, on a follow-up question on that. What were the tweaks that were done? Were it related to how you're talking to, the customer, or was it the industry pain points that you included in your messaging? What were the tweaks that actually made a difference?
So I have to say that it was essentially a change in how we were coming across with our product, because it was a legacy product. It had been working beautifully for decades. There wasn't a need to change the way we were coming across, and it was very feature heavy. And these are the things about the assessment. This is how it will help you. And we realized that is probably where we're losing customers. That's where we're losing sight of new prospects, because nobody wants to be told about yet another feature, or yet another amazing platform. Nobody wants to hear about the robustness of the platform. They want their pain point to be solved. A prospect is coming to you for a job to be done, and you need to understand and appreciate what they need to get done and how best to solve for it. So I feel like if you keep your customer at the heart of all your interactions, all your content, everything that you have to offer, and of course your product, I think that there's a win very much in the future.
Right. So do you usually go about tweak it when there's a market that tells us we need to tweak messaging? Because as a product marketer, what I've realized is it gets to a point where, you'll keep editing, you'll keep, upgrading your messaging, but you also have to see how the market is reacting to that. It's always a chicken and an egg story. But how do you approach that?
I would say it's fairly simple. It's data. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If the data is continuously showing you that your messaging is working, it's resonating, depending on what your job is it to bring in leads, is it conversions? If the data tracks in an upward way, I think you're doing fine. I also believe on the flip side though, that you need to be very attuned to what your customer is looking for and what your customer wants. So I do believe that doing a check-in maybe once in 6 months, twice a year, on the messaging to see that it's still resonating, I think that's always a good idea. And there I would always lean on data. The data is going to show me the way.
That always works.
Yeah, and it's always about keeping a pulse on the customer. But, as a marketer, it's very important to stay in tune with what they're saying, because there's always a disconnect if you stay away from your customer, and if you live in the world of jargons, and if you live in the world of your own product and your own platform, you can somehow get very, very lost. And that's why the customer is the one who will seriously ground you, who will kind of bring you back to earth and say, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I need, can you help me with it? And the moment your product or platform starts resonating with the customer, that's when things are going well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice. And because we are moving towards the end of our show, I would like you to share one snippet or something for people who might be just starting out in product marketing. What's the best approach, and how should they navigate this confusion of using AI or not?
So I always will caveat it by saying that if you're using AI, use it in a way it's meant to be used, which is as a thought partner. It's not meant to lead you. You are meant to lead it. So when you are, let's say, figuring out a new blog to write, you have to give it a skeleton, or you have to be able to give it talking points to maybe structure it a little bit better, but go into it with your own thoughts. Go into it with what you want to talk about, because it's your authenticity that will bring out the content to shine. I think it's impossible for a ChatGPT or a Claude to bring in emotion, because that's not what's innate to it. That's exactly what innate to us as human beings. We are the storytellers.
Yeah, so the power is on us. Thank you so much, Divya, for such a good time. I hope people who are listening to us got a good 360 view of, storytelling in B2B SaaS and your experiences in messaging and using AI tools. Thank you so much for a lovely time today.
Thanks so much, Shruti. This was amazing, and I hope that someone out there is able to benefit from our conversation today and feel more excited about getting into product marketing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.